There's oftentimes as leaders in the church, I've heard people talk about we work so hard to implement a change in our church. Like we've spent a year or 2 years, 3 years even, sometimes trying to really get this big, huge change accomplished in our church. And the moment at which you finally get it done, maybe it's a building, or maybe it's some thing we want to do with worship or whatever it is, the moment you finally get done, it's as if you say, I don't want to do any more change. I've led to that. And that's just the moment that you actually have momentum for change. That's just the moment that you can actually make small incremental changes and build that into the culture of your church. And you sometimes will just kind of take a breather at the wrong time, or try to take a huge change when you could actually start with smaller changes and kind of incrementally work towards building a culture that's actually ready for, anticipating, kind of looking for change to actually take place. And so I think it's important if you're like, our people won't change, I think you can work in small incremental changes instead of trying to tackle the huge change and then stop. Because once you've done it, you've not really led your people towards change. You've just sort of beat them to change one time, or maybe led them to one big change and then just like, that's it, I can't take any more. And it's important to have this culture, because with the way technology is changing, with the way that our world is changing, how connected it is, you really need to lead your people towards being able to adapt and being able to work towards embracing others using new technology, new means. What's interesting is the fourth time or the third time when I noticed like at least half of you were like, I really don't want to do this, I'm kind of tired of changing chairs. The reason is that there was no vision behind me asking you to change chairs. I was just asking you to do a change just for the sake of change. I didn't give you any rationale, no reason, no vision behind it. And so it's important not just to change for change's sake, but to make sure that you're casting a vision of where you want to take people, where you want to lead them towards, what you're wanting to accomplish, or you feel like God's leading the church towards. And with that vision and small incremental changes along the way, you really can develop over time a culture of change, one that will embrace. So when the new idea does come, or when the new technology or the new approach comes, you have the people that are not just willing to change, but actually looking forward to it, anticipating it. They're used to experiencing what that's like. And so it's just another mindset. So I want to kind of move forward one more mindset, and then we'll kind of talk about a little bit of some of the technologies and things that we're actually doing as a church that we would like to share with you and just help you understand. One is I'll tell you about the story of Open. Craig mentioned earlier that we make our resources available for free to other churches, any kind of video, graphic, any of the types of stuff we create. So before that, though, for the first 10 years of our church, you could have labeled us as a not generous church. And we didn't hold any conferences on how to not be generous. We didn't write any books about it. We thought, we probably would never even use the label as not being generous. But looking back on it, it was definitely a label that would fit, because we had a mindset that was centered more towards scarcity of resources as opposed to abundance. And this concept of scarcity versus abundance is something that's really changed inside of our culture as a church. We didn't really set out to be that. And in fact, there were some good things along the way that kind of I think created that inside of us. One was that we had this word that we used. It's a really good word. It's focus. We would say we just need to focus on what God's called us to. And so when more resources would come, all of those resources need to be going towards these things that that we're doing. And we didn't dislike other churches, or we didn't not think of other churches, but it just was hard for us to kind of figure out why we should stop doing anything we're doing, or why we should kind of invest in other churches. And so it wasn't a healthy mindset. We didn't set out to be there, but it was something that was definitely a part of who we were, or how we were leading, I should say, at the church. And so God really intersected us at kind of really, I think, a great time when He really began to put on our hearts and said, look, these are all of the things that I've given you, all these resources, all this talent, people, creative resources and energy. And so much of it is getting used in an amazing way on the weekend at livechurch.tv. And then it sits on a shelf, or it sits on a hard drive, or it gets thrown away, or it gets never used again. And it has so much potential to have a kingdom impact, to be tools and things that other churches use. And it was never never our resource to begin with. It was God's. And so we had lots of opportunities of how to invest it. Some churches have done an amazing job of taking those and getting them out to other churches by packaging them up or making them available in that way. And we applaud those churches. We weren't even doing that. We were just simply doing nothing with it. It just staying, on a computer and just totally, being discarded. But God said, I really, really, really we really felt clearly want you to give this away to churches and want you to do it for free. And I think that was God's way of saying, I know that's a weakness of yours, this kind of scarcity mindset, and I want to have you make a decision, kind of walk in faith that if you do this, that's going to sort of help cure or help us with that deal. So when we made that decision, it was about 4 years ago, I believe. We really thought, man, this could be something that could really impact churches. We didn't know how. We decided we'd make it all available online. It would all be for free. And today, we found it really has had an impact on churches. In fact, over 25,000 churches from over 100 countries use these resources in their church. But the real surprise for us wasn't how the impact changed other churches, but it was how the impact changed us and our culture and our staff. Because now, when you look at today, no matter if you take any of our staff people, we have quite a few, about 250 staff people that are on our team. If you ask any of them, giving away resources, blessing other churches, thinking about the kingdom and the capital C church as opposed to our church is definitely something that's woven into our culture, and it wasn't there just 3 or 4 years ago. So this is an example of how sort of honoring God with a decision, and it's possible to change the culture of our team and the culture of our church. And so I'll tell you just what is actually open. Craig mentioned this kind of in passing, but it's full quality videos, sermon outlines, illustrations, children's curriculum, full quality graphics. This is kind of a slide that shows, it's actually really hard to read, but there's, for a given series, there's videos that tease the upcoming message that you can download. There's bulletin graphics and videos that are loops that you can have on plasmas behind people while you're communicating or teaching the message. And all of it's free, seriously. In fact, you can put your name on the resources, your church's name, not ours. We actually take our name off of it. The only thing that we ask is that you use it in a way that's consistent with leading people to Christ. And so it's not something, it's something that we did in response to something clearly we felt like God was asking us to do. But if you want to use those resources, you can go to open.lifechurch.tv. It's something that we really, really want to share with you. I want to help your church in any way we can. The thing I want to highlight is you don't have to use it in the same way we used it. We see it all as just tools. There's just things that you can take it, you can creatively change it, you can use it for whatever purpose that you as long as it's leading people to Christ. You can take a series idea and use it completely differently. It doesn't have to look the way that we used it. And so it's not us trying to say do it our way. It's us saying here's a tool, a resource, and you can use it as you choose or as you see fit. And something that's kind of led to that, one thing we also make available on there is full messages of Craig teaching on video, full quality video teaching messages. And so we started to have several churches that would use Craig's teaching, or whoever was teaching in one of our series, use that in their church on a weekend, just as kind of a video message as a fill for when their pastor was gone. Or in some cases, in smaller communities, they were without a pastor, and they had lay people that were sort of working to kind of keep the church going, and this became kind of a way for them to supplement. Well, we had some of those churches coming to us and said, is there any way that we could use this all the time? And is there a way that we could maybe get the resources at the same time that your campuses are using them, so we could kind of do exactly what you guys are doing on the weekend in terms of the same message? And so we thought about it and said, well, sure, let's try something, kind of take a risk. We did start what we call LifeChurch.tv Network. And all that is 59, as of today, 59 churches are completely autonomous from all sorts of denominations, backgrounds. They have different styles of worship. They're from small communities. They're from large communities. But all these churches use our teaching in one or more of their services every single week. So, and they're using usually the same week that our campuses are. So our thought is let's just let